Morning, everybody. Glad to see the microphone works. Come on, guys, plenty of seats. Plenty of seats. Gather round. Welcome to CDTA. So you are in the guts of the operation. If this were Albany Med, this would be the ER. So Dr. McKenna feels right at home, right at home. And he told me that he has a lot of expertise, so if anybody's not feeling well, you're in the right place. But welcome to CDTA. It's great to see everyone. I can tell, I think you all can tell, that people are just anxious to be together. So if we've done nothing else today, nothing else, we've brought people together. I think that's quite the accomplishment given where we've been for the last couple of years. So give yourselves a round of applause. So we're going to try to keep this crisp as best we can. Not really my forte, but we'll do the best we can. Before we get going, though, I have a few people I want to recognize and thank. For those of you that work for a board of directors, you know that that's a hit or miss proposition. There's no in between. They're either really, really good or they're maybe not so good. I'm blessed. I work for a board of directors that I think, bar none, is as good as any board of directors that I have been around in my long career. They're led by our chairman, Jamie LaHutt, who's here with us today, Mike Crishone. Come on, guys, stand up. Mike Crishone from Albany County, Joe Sperana from Rensselaer County, and a little different, representing labor, Pat Lance. Thanks, gentlemen. Didn't miss anybody sitting in the back. Good. Would be my last day. They shape the vision for the company. They set the course. They give us direction. And we're really happy and pleased that they're here and showing their support for what we do. We have a lot of elected officials in the room. I couldn't try to eyeball them, but there are many elected officials here today. A round of applause for our elected officials who support what we do every single day. Another group that's extremely important to us, labor. People ask all the time, how do you work with labor? That must be really, really hard. I honestly don't understand what is really, really hard about working with people. Labor is just a word. People are who we work with at the ATU. The ATU leadership team, please stand up, guys. I don't know how many of you are here. And last but not least, the 735 people who work here, changing every day. We're adding people. We're growing here. We'll be more than 750 in a very short period of time. They keep the Capital Region moving. They have kept the Capital Region moving during the last 2 years of extreme difficult situations. I am indebted to them. I work for them. I work for all of you, CDTA employees. I come here every day to make sure that you have the best possible working conditions so that you can continue to deliver what you deliver every day. Thank you very much. So, I'd like to introduce our board chair, Jamie LaHutt, to say a few words. In his day job, Jamie is the executive director at Schenectady Metroplex, so he understands this economic development theme that we're going to talk about a little bit. Jamie?
Thank you, Carm. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Board of Directors, I am proud of all the men and women who work here at CDTA, frontline workers, essential workers. They've been so difficult over the last 2 years. Our board is very proud of the progressive vision that we've established for CDTA, bringing new services to the Capital District, connecting the region and the people as never before. Our workforce has navigated through a tough 2 years, as Carm mentioned. but they came to work every single day. Services continued every single day. They were asked to do new things, different things, and they did it all for CDTA and the people of the region. And while ridership isn't really our primary measure of results and success, I am proud to say that CDTA has now climbed back to 73% of the ridership we had before the pandemic began, and that is one of the highest of a company of our size throughout the country. But looking ahead, we have moved on in 2022 with a full plate of activities. From the introduction of the electric scooter in 2021, our new bus rapid transit line in connecting Albany and Troy, the expanded flex service in the suburban areas, and an expanded CDPHP cycle program. We are adapting to the changing mobility needs and landscape and giving people of the Capital District more ways to travel, more choices than ever. A highlight of 2022 will be the introduction of our newest mobility option, car share, which we'll be getting a first look at later in the program. But we would not be successful without the partnership and support of all of you in the audience today and those of us joining us online. We are thankful for you joining us today and for making mobility a real priority in the Capital District, and I hope that you enjoyed today's program. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Jamie, and thank you for your leadership. Jamie joined the board about 5 years ago and has been chair for, I think, 3 now. We're going on 3 years. He says 3 with a smile. It's not work, Jamie, it's love. And I think you can see the results. And I hope when you walked in, you noticed the fleet and you noticed this garage, which, you know, when I started working here a long time ago, this was a dark and dreary place. That's just the way bus garages were. It's totally different now. Right in back of us, you can't see it, but there's an expansion that's going on in back of us and to our left, about a $15 million expansion because we need more space and we need more area to do things that we never had to do before. So this is a transformational garage right now. So thank you, Jamie. Thanks to the board. But before we kick things off, we want to take about 1 minute to recap the year visually. In about a minute, that's a year. It's actually about 2 years. But you see a lot of different things there. You see technology, you see vehicles, you see movement, you see a lot of the pandemic. But I guess what we're trying to express to you is we are a community resource. We are your transit system. It's not our transit system, it's your transit system. And that's really the message. We want more partnerships. We want more opportunities. We want to move more people. We want to do it in a way that you think we ought to do it. So please talk with us, please work with us, and please continue to be our partner. But without further ado, a couple of us have mentioned this little blue thing over here. And you know, what is it? We've talked about share and car share. Well, today, we're unveiling what we think will have the next big impact, the next big thing. I don't know how this is supposed to go, guys, but you can go ahead and do it. This is Drive. Oh, come on, little applause. I mean, check out that blue color. Graphics, by the way, graphics applied with CDTA labor in our paint shop. We have our own paint shop, body shop, you name it, we fix it. We break a lot of things too, but then we fix them. We're really good at that. Sometimes I wonder if we break it to fix it, but this little blue car, though, is our next foray, our next product. This is going to be a car share program, initially based in Albany, and we'll move from there. And you'll notice that this is an electric vehicle. All the vehicles are electric. So we're going that way. We're going to test the community charging capabilities here. Little hint, it's not as good as we think it is, right? But we're working together to fix that too. So Drive is the new product, and be ready for that. So everybody wants to hear our panel. As a matter of fact, I want to hear from our panel. But before we do that, let me try to recap. Let me try to recap the year. And there she is. Jamie came up to me. Jamie Caslow, who you all know, she's running the show. You know that. She came up. She came up to me and said, "I'm running the PowerPoint." I said, well, what do you need me for? And she said, "You just say a couple of words when I change the slides." I said, "Okay." So during the pandemic, we completed our strategic plan and completely modified our mission statement. That is our mission statement. That is the new mission statement. There's nothing in there about low fares or safety or anything. You expect that from us. But that's what we want to do. We want to connect the capital region. That's who we are. That's what we do. So what we're going to do is just a couple of the words here. We've got a slide for each of those words, and we're going to talk about what we've done. So mobility solutions, we do that every day, right? We provide mobility solutions. Our fixed route service, these big 40-footers, are still the core of the business. And as Jamie said, we're climbing back. We're almost two-thirds of the way, or more than two, we're 75% of the way back on ridership. Again, that's not the only way that we evaluate success, but it's a big way, right? Our people using the product, and they're coming back, much more so than other communities in New York State and certainly across the country. We think that's because of the work that we do. 40 miles of BRT, bus rapid transit, the red and silver vehicle, the bendy, the one that bends in the middle. 10 years ago, we set a vision of 40 miles of bus rapid transit. I said, geez, we're never going to make that. I was a critic of that. I didn't think we could do it. Well, by next year, when the Purple Line debuts on Washington and Western Avenue, we will be there. We will be operating 40 miles of bus rapid transit. Couldn't happen without receiving about $100 million in federal money. That $100 million is competitive grant money. We have to compete against other communities of our size throughout the country. We've won 3 times. So that says a little bit about who we are and what we do. Paratransit, that star, blue bus, smaller one, way in the back, that moves people with disabilities, a demand response, a reservation-based service. By the way, ridership on that is all the way back and exceeding the numbers before the pandemic. What does that tell you about the need to connect people with disabilities? Remember, 40% of those trips are taking people to work. This is not just a medical service. People get very, very confused about what STAR does. Yeah, we take people to dialysis. Yeah, we take people to Albany Medical Center and St. Peter's and other hospitals. But 40% of those trips take people to work. You're going to hear from Maureen O'Brien later on, and she'll talk about that. Universal access, it's almost our calling card now. All of our partners who are here have a universal access account. You're going to hear about that. What that is, and I'll use Albany Med as an example because it's the easiest, it's the biggest. Every one of their ID cards, Dr. Dennis McKenna's ID card is live on our bus. If he tries to get on one of these buses that has a working fare box and the fare box is engaged, he taps, he goes, there's a ride, there's another $1 or $1.25 in our pocket. Thank you very much, Dr. McKenna. But that's how that works. Not only buses, but bikes and soon scooters, and soon Drive. A growing footprint. You've probably heard about this. We're hopeful to expand into Montgomery County. We've been working on this one for about 2.5 years, but the community, Montgomery County, you think of it as Amsterdam, the city of Amsterdam, a small community in upstate New York, no public transportation system, zero, no mobility for the residents. We're going to fix that. We're going to fix it hopefully by the end of 2022. So we're expanding. And there's more. There's more, but not on this slide. There are more things we're working on. You know, when I first came here, one of the board members was a retired brigadier general, lived up the Hilltowns. And he used to look at me, and he told me that I was on probation for 20 years. And he said to me, if I told you all the secrets that I know, I'd have to kill you. So I remember that. The military thing, Dennis, I don't know where that comes from. Connections, different types of things. This is where I think we are different than most communities. It's not just buses. So CDPHP Cycle, our great friends at CDPHP, many of whom are here today, I would venture to say in my career, probably the best new product introduction I've seen. Ridership, we break the record every year, you know, over last year. We've expanded it. I tell this story every day, it seems, but the #1 user in the Albany Med community, which uses a lot of bike rides, is a physician. He lives on New Scotland Avenue, and he takes the bike everywhere. He uses the little basket in the front. When he goes to CVS, he says, I pick up a prescription, I put it in there, I have my soda, whatever I do. He has integrated our bike share program into his life. He's not the only one. Flex on Demand, Senator Jordan is here today. She and I rode Flex on Demand in her community. We introduced it along the 146 corridor between Mechanicville, Half Moon, and Clifton Park. Very difficult community for us to serve with 40-foot buses. They don't work there. So Flex is the answer, and we're looking to introduce Flex in other parts of the capital region. Scoot, our electric scooter program, we were on pilot last year. We will be implementing full-scale Scoot this spring. It's just a different, fun way to travel. Also purposeful trips, though. These aren't just people gliding around. So Scoot on Demand. And then lastly, seasonal service and events. You may have seen one of our trolleys tucked over in the corner. We use them to connect the community for special events and special community type days. Jamie has those things moving pretty much every day somewhere. Communities. Last 2 years, what have we done? COVID-19 has dominated our lives, just as it's dominated yours. I was lucky enough to be selected to be on the regional task force chaired by Dr. McKenna. I got to tell you, the people on that task force made sure to use our services. But we told them on behalf of the CDTA workforce, the board, the staff, we're ready. Tell us what you need. Tell us where you need us. I think back to the days when we needed to get everybody tested. I think of the lines at testing sites. I think about the senior citizens that we took from senior housing developments. Dr. McKenna has staff people calling us literally every day. We've got another place where you need to go. Really, we threw caution to the wind, and we moved the community in a different way. And I'm very proud of the work that we did and very proud of the people here who did that. We provide access and opportunities. At the end of the day here, 70% of our trips are journey to work. 70%. At the end of the day, all of this new stuff is great. All the cars are wonderful, the scooters. At the end of the day, we're taking people to work. We're taking people to what they need to do every day to support their family. So I sometimes have to take a step back and say, hang on a second. Hang on a second with these new products and new introductions and new way to move. End of the day, your job is to get people to work, and we're very proud of that. We're a partner. We're a partner. That's why you're here today. We put partnership in our mission statement. We put partnership on our board agenda. There is a board committee that talks only about partnerships. There's a board committee devoted to that. We report every month on the work we do with you. So that's how important it is to us. That's how important you are to us. We want you to use us, to think about us, to consider us, to reach out to us. This is your CDTA. This is the community CDTA, and we're proud of it, and we're proud of you. So, how do we do it? The secret to success, as one of my friends says, what's in the marinara? My mother would kill me if she heard me say that. I talked about the visionary board of directors. That's where it starts, though. It starts at the top. It starts with a commitment to doing the work that we talked about. This board is visionary and dedicated. We have a talented staff of professionals, about 90 people who do everything from finance, accounting, grants, human resources, planning and development, scheduling. These are talented people. They could go somewhere else. They could probably go into the private sector and make a lot of money, and I hope they don't. But these are talented people. I don't think they get enough credit for the work that they do. A committed workforce. You notice that they're not here. We gave them a couple hours, said, hey, enjoy yourself. I hope someone's watching. I hope we can get them back because we have a lot of work to do. But these people are here every single day. Jamie talked about this. You can't drive a bus from home. I remember 2 or 3 months into the pandemic, Carmen, are your people working from home? Well, no. How do you do that? How do you change the oil from home? You can't do that. These are old-fashioned blue-collar jobs. They're changing. They're evolving. But at their core, they're somewhat old-fashioned changing jobs. We, like all of you, are having a hard time. We have 50 openings. If you know anyone that wants to be a bus operator or is a skilled diesel mechanic, send them our way. But they are skilled, they are dedicated, they're hardworking. And then lastly, a supportive and collaborative partnership of people like you. We are so happy that you're here. We're so happy that we have your support. We want to do more with you. We thank you. This is really your CDTA. We appreciate you being here. Now, Melissa Mangini is going to run our panel discussion. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Carm, and good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see people in person. I'm really happy to be here today, and as Carm mentioned, we have a really great panel to talk about the connections and the future of mobility in the region. The panelists with us today represent 4 very different organizations, but all who see the value of good mobility and the importance of removing barriers to strengthen the entire region. So with us today, obviously you know Carm, Dr. Dennis McKenna, President and CEO of Albany Med, Tony Carnival, VP of Personnel at Stewart Shops, Jeff Morrell, Principal at Rosenblum Companies, and Maureen O'Brien, President and CEO of NYSID, the New York State Industries for the Disabled. I want to start off with you, Dr. McKenna. The last 2 years obviously have been a challenge, and your organization, like CDTA, did not have the luxury of shifting to remote work like many of us did. Can you talk about how your employees worked through the pandemic and what good mobility meant to them?
Of course. Good morning. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Let me just begin very quickly with a little personal anecdote. I have a long history with CDTA. When I went to high school back in the 80s at Christian Brothers Academy, I used to take the bus back and forth from Bethlehem to, at the time, De La Salle Road. And I have a lot of memories of going back and forth on the bus. I told that story to Carm the last time I was here. And, Carm, I told him how I used to have the little tokens to get on the bus. I think people probably remember the tokens. And, Carm is not only a visionary and a great leader, but he connects with people on a personal level. He's doing what he did last time, too. So he went into his office and he handed me a token. Well, I already have one of these on my desk because, to me, that was a very personal thing that he did, and I appreciate that. I think it speaks to how he connects people and the type of person he is and the content of his character. So I wanted to personally thank him for his leadership and the way in which I think he tries to connect people. Thank you, Carm. So now I have 2, which I love. To your point, obviously, in the last 2 years, healthcare workers have been essential. I mean, we've obviously always considered what we do to be essential even before the pandemic. No question the last 2 years has put that on spotlight. And over the last 2 years, just like your workforce has had to show up every day, so have ours. At Albany Medical Center, we're very proud, obviously, partnering with all the hospitals in the capital region to take care of people with COVID and non-COVID issues. Albany Medical Center in particular has very unique missions in the region. We're the only trauma program. We're the only children's hospital. We're the only transplant program. There are certain services that we provide that if they don't take place at Albany Med, they can't take place in the capital region. The Universal Access Program that Carm speaks about, let me just give you a number and think about this for a second. Every single month, among our 11,000 employees, we have 20,000 rides a month taking people to work. Just think about that for a second. Think about the impact. It's not an overstatement to say that if it was not for the partnership with CDTA, we would not be able to deliver the services that we do at Albany Med and on our campus. And so it's a remarkable program. Obviously, as you heard, we have physicians using it. We have people who provide services everywhere throughout our campus. We have people that come in at 3 o'clock in the morning. We have people that come in at 11 o'clock at night. And CDTA gets them there, and we're so grateful for that opportunity to bring them in, to allow them to care for the community.
Thank you. Maureen, for the communities that you represent, can you talk about the importance of a reliable transportation network?
Yeah, so Carm mentioned it in his talk earlier. In the capital region, about 12% of the individuals who live here are individuals with disabilities. They don't get to work without an accessible transportation network. And many of the people that we place in jobs and that we work with, we specifically look for locations that are on a bus line. It is equity for the people that we serve to be able to get to work, and I love that 40% of everything that you guys do with transportation for our people is to work. During the pandemic, the work that our agency did in janitorial and sanitation was considered essential. So 80% of the people we work with went to work every day in essential jobs, and they were incredibly proud of the work that they do. They could not stay home. They got up every day. They cleaned office towers for OGS and took the bus there. They cleaned at various state locations. And we have a new partnership with Albany Med where we have people going on site who are doing data entry, who are doing document imaging of medical records, who take the bus to work as well. We can't get to work without it.
Thanks, Maureen. Tony, Stewart's recently joined the Universal Access Program. Can you talk about how that partnership came together, and has it helped you find and retain employees as well?
Well, Carm, being an old school guy, reached out with a letter, actually, I believe, to Gary Dake. It wasn't an email. He went non-electronic on us. That got our attention. We came down and met with Carm and the gang down here. We started, I think, October, November. We have about 70 stores right now participating, over 220 people. And back to a little of what Dr. McKenna just talked about, we're fortunate we can share employees between locations. So during COVID, that was critical. Some of those people don't drive. So having the bus pass has allowed us to move people between locations we would not have been able to do prior to that. So certainly a big help, and we appreciate everything that Carm and everybody here is doing.
Can you talk a little bit about how Stewart's, got to the point where they wanted to offer this benefit to employees and the value you've seen?
That was a pretty easy one. We sat here. It was a pretty short meeting. We decided right there. It was too many wins and no losses, I guess would be the way to put it. Okay. The employee wins because they can use the pass for work or for home. We win because it's a great investment in our partners, and hopefully it's a way to retain and recruit people. In some of our tight locations where there's a half a dozen spots, if we're not using them, a customer can. So it was just too many positives.
Great, thank you. And Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about how transit factors into your development decisions?
I hate parking garages. they're expensive and they're ugly, and they're hard to convert. You have to be really thoughtful about what the future of a building looks like if you don't think it's going to have a parking garage forever. Our company is very focused on sustainability. We have a 10-year goal for all of our new development to be net carbon neutral. It's seared into our development practice, our management practice. It's just something that we really believe in. So we look at it through the lens of what we call the 3 Ps. So there's place, performance, and practice. And CDTA looms in all of those. So place, pretty obvious. We're looking at transit-oriented locations. We're looking at walkability. We're looking at the ability for our residents to easily access amenities and have it be a more attractive, convenient lifestyle. Performance is the building itself. It's about using renewables and building a better building, a tighter envelope, more efficient mechanicals. And then practice it's a little more of a challenge, because that's how do we get our tenants and our residents to come along with us and be more sustainable, and how do we facilitate that? So by being in a transit-oriented location, by working with CDTA on micro-mobility options as well as bus service, really excited about car share. We're providing, and we're removing the excuses, right, from our tenant population, our resident population, from taking advantage of mass transit. And then the other aspect of it is how can we partner, with CDTA through programs like universal access to, again, remove those barriers and remove those excuses to using transit, because, again, at the end of the day, it's really about convenience. That's undergirding that, obviously, is sustainability. We want less people in these tiny metal boxes, spewing exhaust into the air. We don't want the clutter. We don't want, and that's not an urban condition. That's a regional condition, right? We're a bunch of cities connected by all this concrete spaghetti, and the concrete spaghetti has all these little cars running around on it. So the more that we can do, the better, the healthier our communities are going to be, and ultimately the happier our tenants are going to be. So again, to Tony's point, it's a win-win-win.
What are your tenants looking for, and maybe what's the feedback you've received, and how has that evolved, over time?
Sure. I mean, it's interesting. We're just coming up on a year of offering universal access as a free amenity in our residential buildings in downtown Troy. And so we're just at the point where we're going to begin polling our residents and, asking, what can we do to encourage you to use the service? And again, work with CDTA to feed that data back and, help to guide some of the policy and practice and improve. It's kind of neat. I mean, I'm envious hearing the numbers, the utilization numbers, but for a population of 250 residents, we saw 1,200 rides last year, and that's a start. That's somewhere between 5 and 10% of our tenant populations are using the passes actively. We want to see that number get much higher. I think that car share is going to be important to that. And I think that, bikes, scooters, all those things, I have a feeling we're just going to continue to arc up. But, we're very focused on it, and actually we're right at that point where we're going to find out more.
Great. Thank you. Maureen, I'm curious, what features or services are important to people with disabilities when using public transit?
So it's being able to get to the bus stop. So many people choose locations to live where they're on a transit line, and it's being able to get off of it and get into work. It's pretty simple. Not being, being able to maneuver on the bus as well. Our individuals are across all disabilities. So we have some that need access because of wheelchair use, but we also have a whole host of individuals we work with who have autism, who have an intellectual and developmental disability, who need to maneuver a system that they can understand and that they can figure out. We have aides that work with them to work through it, so ease of use is extremely important.
All right. I'll stick with you for this question, but I'd love to get everyone's perspective on it. What more should we be thinking about that's missing from the conversation around good mobility and economic development?
Yeah, so individuals with disabilities in New York State are unemployed at 67%. It's a statistic I state a lot, and people they say to me, that can't be true. It cannot be true that only 37% of individuals with disabilities are employed. That's the case, and it's the case across the state. The way to change that is to work with not just government, but also private organizations to figure out how we get accessible transportation, but also jobs open to them. I mentioned earlier our partnership with Albany Med. Albany Med was our first private sector customer at NYSED. For 40 years, we did business with local government, public authorities, but Dr. McKenna and his team had a goal of diversifying their supply chain. So they worked with us to bring people in to do contract work on various things that they needed done there. So we now have individuals with disabilities who are NYSED employees, but they're badged at the hospital. They're working side by side with non-disabled individuals, which is exactly what you want. That's how we're going to grow. It's how we're going to have other opportunities available to us.
Great, thank you.
Melissa, one thing I want to add is I think the answer to a lot of these questions is a series of little things. Everything is not a big project, right? So one of the things that we have done and become devoted to in our bus rapid transit development is sidewalks, right? We are now all about sidewalks. We bring money to the table to build sidewalks. Sometimes we build them, our contractor builds them. Sometimes the community that we're developing the project in builds the sidewalks, because if you think about it, people who use our service are pedestrians before they use our service and pedestrians after they use our service. So we have invested a lot of money in sidewalks. We're even now starting to heat the sidewalks. Kind of a novel approach, right, given our climate. People told us that couldn't be done. Well, we're doing it. We're doing more of it. If you would have told us 15 years ago that we would be investing in sidewalks, I mean, we knew it was important, but we didn't know how to do it. We figured out how to partner again with communities and developers to build sidewalks. So there are more sidewalks there today than ever before.
Thank you. Dr. McKenna, from your perspective, what's missing from the conversation? What can push us forward?
A couple of things. First of all, to Jeff's comment about parking garages, I'll say that's absolutely true on our campus. We know logistically it would be impossible if everybody who wanted to come to work on our campus drove. We wouldn't have space for all of them. And the fact of the matter is, with 20,000 people coming, 20,000 rides every month coming to the medical center, it helps us significantly as far as our parking space. I want to make sure I take this opportunity to talk about the vaccine effort and the role that CDTA played, because I think it's just an absolutely remarkable story. When the vaccine first was rolled out, the state was broken up into 10 regions. And unbeknownst to us, Albany Medical Center was identified as being the regional hub, being responsible for organizing the initial vaccine efforts for the capital region, for 1 million people. And we were tasked with putting together a regional advisory task force to figure out how to vaccinate the first people who were eligible, those categories 1A and 1B, which included essential workers, but also included individuals who were older and individuals who had disabilities. And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say the very first person that I thought of to put on the team was Carm. And that was one of the best decisions that we made. And I do think that when we spoke, his exact words were, whatever it is that we can do to help get people to the vaccine locations, we will do that. And obviously, the community and population that Maureen serves was one of those populations. I want to say here today to Carm, and I want to say here to your labor team, there's no question that you saved lives. There's no question that because of your ability to jump in with us immediately and move people who could not otherwise get to the vaccine sites, lives were saved. I think it was a remarkable partnership. It's one of the things I'm most proud of in the last year. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, we hear from everyone, the importance of the partnerships and being stronger together, and how, industries that may have not worked together are now working together. From your perspective, and you've always been a forward thinker on this, what do you think could be missing?
Those of you who know me are probably sick of hearing me say it. I'm a diehard regionalist, right? Just by the numbers, if we take the 8 counties that ostensibly comprises the capital region, we look at that holistically. It's a 1 million person MSA. You know, it's a land area that's comparable to all these larger unified metropolises that, you know, we compare ourselves, like Austin or Columbus. And it's funny, my analogy for the region is, you know, everyone thinks they're the sun, but we're really just a bunch of stars, and we need to behave like a constellation. And, you know, those connecting points between the stars, and that's CDTA. I mean, you know, that at the end of the day, that's our mass transit system. That is one of the single, you know, it's one of the unique regional organizations that really can fulfill that promise of being that physical and community connector. And I think, you know, what I'm really excited to see, and I realize there are challenges, but, you know, I'm here to cheerlead for this personally, and, you know, it's the old short rail conversation, right? Well, you know, we don't have a subway, we don't have short rail, and, you know, and the studies have been done and the costs are exorbitant, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, we have short rail. We have the BRT. All we need to do is give up a little bit of our roadway, provide dedicated bus lanes, provide the intelligent traffic systems, and now, I go back to that key word, convenience. Now, all of a sudden, you know, those bus rides between Schenectady and Albany, or Albany and Troy, and, you know, parts in between, you know, they happen just as fast as a car, except, oh, I could be on my laptop, although I know we're all sick of that, but, you know, I could be getting a little work, I could be reading a book, like a real book, not a Kindle. You know, I could just be, as we make our way back to the office, right, or we go shopping or things like that. So I think it's incumbent upon everybody in this room, you know, to figure out how we get that done, right? Like, it's doable. How do we really connect the region? How do we connect the region physically? And we have such a powerful force in CDTA. You know, if you think about it, saving lives, I mean, that's a real thing. Saving the planet, that is a real thing. That is an electric car. There is an electric car fleet that's going out, right? We have electric buses now. You know, this is impactful stuff, folks. And, you know, I'll similarly, I'll do a quick anecdote, you know, just to talk about CDTA for a minute. When we were doing Vicina in Troy, you know, and we were talking about the new bus station, and very funnily, I learned that I must be very naive, but, you know, I found out early in our conversations with CDTA about the bus stop at the corner of 4th and Congress, where our building is, that, like, developers don't really like bus stations by their building. I still can't really fully unpack that, I'll be honest. Some smarter people can figure it out. I was like, well, why not? You know, and so we started getting this conversation, and once we got through no, we really do want a bus station there, like, you know, we started talking about, well, how can we leverage the bus station, right? And I remember being in Columbus, Ohio, and sending a text message, a photo to John Scherzer at CDTA of a kiosk that had a green roof on it, you know, a planted roof. And I'm like, can we do one of these? Well, we got one. I mean, you know, can we put solar on the station? Yeah, let's do that. You know, like, can we, if you guys are doing car share, can we put a car share? Yeah, let's talk about how we do that. Everything is yes. There's such a creative organization, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't take money, and it doesn't take, but the will is there, right? And I think that's, if I can say anything, if I could leave with any message today, and I know I'm going too long, but we need the business community to get behind CDTA, you know, get your people on the buses, right? Encourage the use of the car share. Provide stations, provide EV charging infrastructure, figure out a way to do that. We're doing that in Troy right now. We pay for the electricity, the car is there, our tenants get a benefit. Like, there's so many ways that we can make this work, but all of it is there because of this organization.
Thanks, Jeff. Tony, similar to CDTA, Stewart's is in pretty much every community in this area. Can you talk about the importance of, you know, working collaboratively with other companies and other partners to kind of push the region forward, make it a better place?
Sure. I think you've heard it a number of times here from everyone. Taking that chance, Carm writing a letter, back to what I said before, started this whole process. How open are we to working together, not seeing everybody as competition for very different businesses here, you know, on this panel. But how do you do that? How do you take that chance? And then we have an expression we use all the time at work, change, even positive change, is hard. going in with a little mentality that there's some, back to Jeff's point, there's a little bit of work in all of these things. Not a ton, but a little bit of work, and we can get by that and take a step forward. We probably weren't a natural reach out for CDTA. They just took a chance. It led to a partnership here. So I think we all have to get a little more comfortable with that, taking a little bit of a chance. Everybody's out of mask now. We can see your faces again, and it's a little easier when you can see someone's face. It doesn't look like a holdup in the Old West anymore.
Right,
So-
right.
Melissa, though, back to that little thing, like it's a series of little solutions that are going to make this work or not make it work. Even writing a letter, right, is a little thing. By the way, that letter went to a lot of people. It was our strategic plan, actually, right? We were just distributing the strategic plan like all businesses, right? So you got this beautiful copy, it's colorful, you're proud of the work that was done and you send it out. You don't expect it really to generate anything. But Gary Dake literally was flipping through it, read the universal access section, and called me. Gary and I know each other. He called me and said, hey, could this help us? Well, yeah. How? A lot of little details. He gave it to Tony, to handle the little details. There are lots of them, but we went from 2 stores to
Started in 1 store. We're in just about 70 now. So,
I mean, like almost overnight.
yeah.
Overnight. And there are so many Stewarts out there. There are so many Albany Meds out there. There's only one Jeff Morrell, but there's so many Rosenblums out there. And we spend lots of time talking with people, working with people. It's not an easy sell. But as everyone up in the panel said, it shouldn't be as hard as it is. So I think if we can leave something with the community, it shouldn't be this hard. It needn't be this hard, but we have to have a conversation.
Absolutely. Maureen, your thoughts on, the little things that can be done, from your perspective, what can be done with government, private sector, what would help?
So one thing I want to say before answering that question is just to echo on the saving lives comment that Dr. McKenna made. Individuals who live in group homes, those who are intellectually and developmentally disabled in this region, were ravaged by COVID. They had a very similar outcome as nursing homes did. And with the efforts of CDTA and Albany Med, those individuals in this region are vaccinated at almost 15 points higher than other regions of the state. We were able to transport group home residents to vaccination sites en masse so that they could go back to living a normal life, and routine is extremely important to them. So I do want to thank CDTA again and the staff for the work that they did with the people that we serve. I think Carm's comments on partnership, and I'm thinking about this right now, I have 135 member agencies at NYSID, and you and I have to have a conversation. So we have Schenectady ARC, Center for Disability Services, all of these places where perhaps a universal access with them would be equally as potent in ridership as it would with other organizations. We have people that cross different counties. So I think continuing the dialogue and seeing where those fits can happen. And I also think support of the private sector. So again, I mentioned before that NYSID was an organization that generally for 40 years did business with government. We found some great private sector partners in the last 2 years that have transformed the way that we do business, and I think that can happen with CDTA as well.
We're coming up on our deadline, but I want to leave the last word to Dr. McKenna. For your figure as a community leader, business leader, what takeaways do you want to leave the audience about what any one person could do to kind of move us forward with all the little things that would become a big thing?
Absolutely. So I think one thing that I've been sitting here thinking about is, obviously we're in a bus garage, and I think it's fantastic, and all the different ways in which CDTA moves people. But I want to call out the bicycle as well. I think the partnership with CDPHP Cycle is something that, as we come out of the pandemic, I'm obviously someone who wants to promote health. I'm obviously someone who has understood and spoke a lot about how, the way in which we control our health, our blood pressure, our weight, our physical exercise limits are things that are important. as we not only battle COVID, but heart disease, stroke, other things. The fact that this bus company, if I can use that term, also promotes the use of bicycles, to me, I think is visionary and it's remarkable. And it's another way in which I think they not only improve the lives of us as far as our ability to get around, but our health. And I think that's a very important message, and I hope that people will take advantage of it, and I think it's a fantastic thing.
Thank you. And Carm, any last words?
Well, listen, mission accomplished, right? What we wanted to do was bring everybody together and share the work that we have done, but most importantly, to share the work that the collective we has done. It's not, we can't do anything alone. You know, we need the panelists, we need all of you. So I think my takeaway is, you know, mission accomplished, the collaborative partnership approach to getting things done works. Thank you. Thanks everybody for coming.
And thank you to the panelists for all your perspective. And thanks for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day.